can you see
Your desktop.
something? Yep, desktop.
Yes, I can.
All right, cool.
Yep, I can see it.
All right. So what we're going to be doing, setting up today, is a small CI/CD project, just to show you how to be able to run your tests in a very simple pipeline. So we'll actually be using Gitlab today.
Right.
So first thing you need to actually do is register for a Gitlab account if you don't already have one. I have one. And we'll set up a new project. So I'm going to call it example pipeline. And I'm going to initialize it with a repository so that I have something to clone. All right. So then I'm going to clone with HTTPS. Normally I'd use SSH, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to use HTTPS. So in git bash, I'm going to clone this repository. And in git bash, paste is actually shift insert. That one's got me a couple of times. So this is bring down the repository, which at the moment is only a README file. Now I'm going to open my editor, which my case is Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to create a .git it's a gitlab.yaml file, a gitlab ci.yaml file. Now, this file is pretty much like a Docker file. It'll have an image that it's starting from, and then changes on that image. I think it'd be best to show you what I mean. All right. So I'm going to create a, so So stages sets the order that each of the parts will run. And you can have as many parts as you want in it. Each part is a set of scripts that will run on the test environment. Now, the simplest way to set this up is just do it all in the one. So I install all the packages and then I run my scripts. And that's the simplest pipeline to set up. Now, I'm going to be using Node Package Manager to install Jest.
Is there any specific reason why it's Jest? Can you use other things?
You can use anything you like. Any code runner, you can be using.
Well, in this case, we're using a lot of Cypress, where you can actually
Cypress. Yep.
You can use for you can use for unit tests. You can use for API testing. So at this point, we just use install Cypress.
Yep.
Cool.
Cypress will work fine. You'll have to change the command you run, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's as if you're going to be running it on your own machine.
Okay. Muting myself.
So this npm run test, so it's in package.json that will run this command. So at this point, I need something to test. So I'm just going to create a quick example file. And export it. And we'll just create a quick file to test that.
This Jest doesn't look that particularly hard.
No, Jest is based on Mocha.
Oh, okay.
And it's, see, that always gets me. And it's probably a more simple syntax than Mocha. Now, I generally like to have a failing test, so I'm going to put something in that's not true. At this point, I need to install Jest. So I go back to the terminal. Now, you generally don't store node modules on the repo, which is why I have them install it on the CI package. But to do that, you also need to use a git ignore file to ignore the node modules. Now, it's as simple as adding, committing your file,
This looks very clean, Ben.
the interface.
Yeah.
I find it's quite easy to get around and use. And this is the other thing I quite like about it. The linting in it. So this should know it's a Gitlab CI file. And it actually has all these templates that you can use in it for various things. Like Pages is its own hosting thing that you can use for free, which will allow you to use static site generators. It's not happy about something. As it's a YAML file, you need to be careful with the spacing.
Can you make a default? Like in Visual Code, you can say, okay, my tabs are going to be 3 spaces exactly, or something like that. Can you do that in GitLab?
Not in GitLab, I don't think.
Okay.
Is it that space? See, it wasn't detecting the image. So it wasn't actually. Sorry, I've done this like 5 times in the last day. Not once have I got this error.
It always happens.
Test 1. That's got to be that.
If you like, I can always edit this out at the end. Although it might actually be useful, you know.
I actually have a slightly more complex version, which of course that's valid. It's got to be doing something with the spaces.
Actually, I hear that a lot. It's always said over and over again with YAML files as the spaces are imperative, which makes me wonder why they don't make it automate that do the same thing like Visual Code and automate space if it's such a problem. Can you tell us a little bit about, step us through this, what I'm looking at here? I'm looking at your image, I'm looking at the stages. There's 2 stages, right? The build and test.
Right.
Build.
So the stages run in order, and so I've named each of these the same as what the stage is, but they don't have, these ones don't have to be named anything in particular. This is what relates to this. So this one runs first, but it could be anywhere in this file. It doesn't actually matter that it's up the top, it just makes it easier to read. Basically, each one will run this command. This stage is then saved as an artifact. It saves the node modules as an artifact for the next stage. So, which means it saves all those files and then caches them for the next, these 2 runs. So it's not running that every single time. Whereas it would be if I was to add this script into these stages. And that gives it a very slight performance boost. But when you're running hundreds of tests in parallel, you're going to want to be optimizing that as much as you can. So these are all the changes that it's done. So you can see that's failed. You can see all the YAML errors we had just before. So if I go into this pipeline, we will see the job, then see the build's actually passed. So it's created something there. So this is pretty much the same as running it in the terminal. So this is using Docker container. And that's that image we had up the top. And then it's basically creating the environment with a bunch of variables that are set. We don't have any of those set up at the moment, so. And then it's installing npm package jest, and then saving the node modules from that for the next job.
So how does it work in a group? Because I was asking Margaret Deneen the other day. She's excellent test manager. And I noticed that with us, when we were just uploading our files to Google Drive and trying to make sure that that's the latest ones, things like that, human error gets in the way all the time. It's all messy. Does this actually help that you've got that you have the latest file that you should have? It seems to me like you still need to have some human protocols in place for this to work effectively. Otherwise, could someone put some junky file in and then someone update it with the latest update, and then someone actually put another junky file in because they didn't check what was the latest update or something like that?
So Git will solve. So Git helps you work with other people. It doesn't create processes for you. You will have to create processes around Git to make it effective for you.
So, for example, is it always to me? It seems like you need to have a traffic controller though, to making sure that people aren't putting shit up there, or someone might have put a bug fix or something like that, and they haven't checked that that's what it should be, and they've put something else up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was talking to Trish the other day, and she was saying, most of the time when she goes into place, it's not the technical stuff that people have fucked up. It's that they've had no kind of protocols, human etiquette around how they do things, and it's really sorting that shit out more than anything else.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that GitLab's been working on, is they've been putting in things like you can put in those manual checks in. You can have it spin up a server and check everything manually, and then someone go through and go, yes, I approve this change.
Yeah.
Run it through the pipeline.
Okay.
So you can put all those checks in place, but they're not automatic.
Well, I wouldn't think it would be. I think like anything else, it's just like you haven't got in some common sense rules in place to use this and make it a discipline. It's not going to work.
Very true.
That's what it seems to be there. So I'm assuming what happens was, because I never remember this stuff because I don't do it enough. But I'm assuming everyone's got their own little GitLab and they're assigned to a particular project. It will go to some place where it's stored where people can check it. And then, a smart idea is to have the traffic controller approve what gets up to the main pipeline. Is that pretty much how it goes?
Yeah, that's pretty much right. Generally, they'll have a range of people that approve a change.
Okay. In Channel 9, what did they use for their pipeline? Was it just a Docker kind of thing? Docker what? What did they use?
So they were using... They were using Atlassian stuff.
Bamboo.
So that was Bamboo. They weren't... From memory, they weren't using Bamboo.
Can't remember what they used. I just thought it was Bamboo to myself. I'll have a look. They use a whole bunch of different stuff, though.
It was a huge amount of different stuff.
They don't seem to have some consistency on that. It's like they sort of jump on one thing, but they don't really look at the whole ecosystem of the thing. That's another thing I've noticed about companies. They've got a problem and they jump on some tool that looks quite easy, might because someone's used to it, but they don't actually look at things like an ecosystem. Okay, they don't seem to think about the whole system and what's actually going to all work together well, and then work on what their protocols around that is. It seems to be more of like a Frankenstein thing, oh, this hand will use this band and this foot will use that, and you know what I mean? It's not really thought out like a system in terms of how they work.
Yeah, or something's particularly fine for the use case of one team, but another team it doesn't work entirely.
Yeah, so it's always interesting.
But they were using Concourse.
Okay. It's not really well known, Concourse. I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a nice open source tool though.
Okay. Okay, interesting.
But here you can actually see the results of the test, which is your normal jest output.
So you got, okay, cool. So you got one pass, well, actually one tick, that's all I can see. Hold on, 7, where is it? 4, 1 failed, 1 total. 1 failed, 1 pass, 2 total. All right, fine. Cool. That's pretty much it, really, isn't it?
That's pretty much it. It's fairly simple to get up and running, and there's a lot you can do with it. You can have.
Sorry.
Yep, you go.
Now, can you bring up your notes? We'll have a look at those notes. We can check that we've understood the line. I've made notes as I've gone along. I just want to see what the streamline is of it. Oh, nice. It's perfect.
My dad's gone and made changes because I got him to run through it yesterday, and he's like, I don't understand this, clarify.
Good for him.
It's nice having that support available.
Yeah,
It's easy to understand.
Go up to the top of number 1. Stop on number 1. Excellent. Nice goals. Good. Assumptions. Yeah. Good. That's nicely put, by the way, Ben. That's a nice note. It's good skill.
It looks really good.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good skill. You might, once I've actually done this little video, I'll send it to you also. You might want to edit it and then put this together with that and make it part of your branding.
Okay.
Because it's not just that, it's not so much the technical stuff, it's that you've actually done this thing in a very clean, articulate way.